What's going on, everybody, in Wrestling Review Society's YouTube page, Real Pro Wrestling's YouTube page, and twitch.tv/YoKevin. Guys, tonight we have an interview for you that we've all really been looking forward to for a while now. And it's finally happening. Our schedule's finally linked up. So I'm really, really honored to announce my guest tonight. Guys, we're going to do all the sponsorship plugs at the end. So we're just going to go right on into the interview because I know you guys are really looking forward to it. So once again, guys, it is my absolute privilege and honor to introduce my guest tonight. Still currently one half of your longest reigning NXT Tag Team Champions, formerly known as Connor, now Big Kon of the Awakening. Ladies and gentlemen, the big man himself, Big Kon.
How are you doing, Kevin? Thank you for having me, and I'm glad that we were able to make this happen, man.
Oh, as am I, man. You're an interview that I've wanted for a very long time. You know, we were kind of talking earlier backstage, and I favor a lot of the independent shows down in Florida. I actually work for Zach Monstar's company, Real Pro Wrestling. I'm the ring announcer. So I've met a lot of your students through there. But meeting you, I said this earlier when I posted that clip of interviewing Damon. Every time I have met you, whether it be you, sometimes I've met you and your wife at the same event, both of you have always treated the janitor with the same respect as you treat the CEO. Where did you get that sense of humbleness from? Because it's really hard to get lost when you have, you know, a name like yours, but yet you still maintain, you know, your humbleness.
Yeah, I think, well, first off, it's a hell of a compliment to have. And we were talking about it real briefly. We were backstage, and I just remember there being a pivotal point in my career when this all started. First off, I've always believed that you always treated people with respect, no matter what, no matter who you are. Yeah, you can kid around and you can joke and things like that. But I think at the end of the day, I've always believed that, we were all kind of remotely born the same, and we're all going to go in a pine box or burnt. We're all equal, and I've always believed in treating everybody with kindness and respect, because that's the way I want to be treated. But there was a pivotal point that I remember really still to this day, I can still see it. I'm living it right now in my head, that it really stuck out. And I remember we were this is when I was currently with Deep South Wrestling back in 2006. We were invited to Atlanta. WWE had a live event, and the school was invited to go backstage. And I just remember Bill DeMott had a select group of guys that he was walking around introducing people with that were, interested in working with us. But what stuck out to me was the fact that Bill DeMott, of course, was saying hello to the boys and, asking about families and stuff. But he was also talking and saying hello to like catering crew and to the lighting people, to the hairstylists, to the sound system, the sound technicians, to the people that were back in the TV trucks. And it's something that always stuck out to me. And I was just like, wow, like that's what I want to be like, because I thought that was one of the coolest things I had ever seen. And it was the only time that I'd ever seen that in the wrestling business, still to this day. Because the boys always talks amongst the boys. But I think sometimes we get so caught up in, being in a part or playing a part or being ready for the match that we forget that the people around us are the people that really make the magic and make us bigger than life personas.
That's one thing I've always loved about pro wrestling. You say it's the people around you. Pro wrestling is really an all-inclusive sport. Maybe you're not the best in-ring athlete, but they still need sound guys and ring crew and commentators and ring announcers. And as far as, you being that kind of person, I can tell you firsthand, we're going to get into you becoming a trainer, but some of the guys that you work with that go to your school, I'm really close friends with Wheezy T, Logan Cruz, Damon, Mike, Hammer, all those guys. They all have that same respect you do. So you guys are doing a lot of things right. Down at Tampa Bay. I really, really enjoy your students, and they become really good friends of mine.
Yeah, well, that's good. You can make sure to keep them in check. No, they're really good kids, and just to name some of those kids that you named off, who I think they're going to have a bright future. There's so many more kids that are there and they're a lot they have a lot of the reason why I even got into this part of my life, because I never thought I was going to be a trainer. I never got into the aspect of saying to myself, like, oh my God, I want to be a trainer when I'm done doing, professional wrestling. It never crossed my mind until I met Jay Lethal's and David Mercury's students, the Lethal Academy. And those kids more or less saved me mentally, for sure, because they helped. And I've never told them this, but they helped instill that love and passion again, because seeing them and how hungry they are was, I think, something I needed to see. And it's something that I had forgotten about probably for 10 plus years. And so it was very humbling to see. And, I love those kids. They had a lot to do with my change into being a coach now. And, it's something I've never even told them.
Well, they're going to know now, because a lot of them are watching. They're already coming. We got we got Coach Kon comments coming in right here at the bottom of our screen. Another guy that you're familiar with, Zach Monstar, aka Zach Taylor. They all turned out for you, man. And like I said, we've all been waiting for this to happen. So thank you for making the time. But you have a very interesting story about how you initially got introduced to pro wrestling. Can you talk to us about how landscaping led you to pro wrestling?
Yeah. So, this is really interesting. I'm not going to lie to you, because I've listened to a lot of kids tell their stories about professional wrestling, and that's something they knew they always wanted to do. And well, that wasn't so much on my part. I never once sat back and said, my God, when I grow up, I want to be a professional wrestler. I never said that. So, I knew I wanted to play football. I loved wrestling, but I just never thought about being a professional wrestler. So anyways, one day, I had a buddy of mine by the name of Don Hernandez, and he had spoke to me and said, hey, listen, I need some help. And do you mind coming down and help me do some landscaping work? And I was like, yeah, sure. No problem, man. Like, I need a couple dollars, and, the weekend was coming up, and you got to have beer money, right? So
absolutely.
So anyways, I ended up, helping him do the backyard of Sgt Slaughter. And I had no idea until he came walking out. And, I was so excited when I saw him that even to this day, he laughs about it, and he picks on me about it. And I love him to death. But he looked at me and he said, hey, kid, you ever thought about becoming a professional wrestler? And I said, no, sir. I never did. But I was in such awe with Sarge that it had nothing to do with professional wrestling or his storylines of him and the Sheik or anything like that, him and Hogan. I didn't even care about that. I loved Sarge because of G.I. Joe. I was a G.I. Joe brat when I was growing up. And
who wasn't?
Tell me about it, right? So when I saw Sarge, I didn't want his autograph or nothing. I was just in awe. I was like, oh my God, it's Sgt Slaughter. And so anyways, he was the one that kind of helped direct me. And he said, well, if you're ever interested, this is probably some people you should, maybe meet up with, get into an independent circuit. And you should think about it one day. And sure enough, I've never even told this part of the story, but a buddy of mine who was very close to me, he's about 6'11", right? He got approached by a gentleman down in South Florida with a company that was running at the time called FOW. They gave him his information and they said, hey, we would like to have you work on our show. Anyway, so my buddy comes to me at work and he goes, hey man, listen, I know you had been talking about this. And he ended up just passing me the number into my hand. And he goes, I know I don't want to do it. He goes, but maybe, you had talked about it. Maybe something you want to do also. And I was just like, Sgt Slaughter talked about this, and then I'm going to go and try this. And then, so I quit my job right there. And I took that little piece of paper and I ended up meeting a gentleman by the name of Billy Fives way back in the time, talked with him, and the rest was kind of history. I met Rusty Brooks and then it all just kind of took off from there.
I always thought it was so I like to do my homework on somebody before I have them on here. One, to kind of avoid the more regularly asked questions, try to make it fun for you. But I heard that story and I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. But we have a comment coming in from Zach Taylor. As we know, he owns Real Pro Wrestling. Says all the boys under Kon's wing are such a joy to work with. Professional, respectful, helpful. I like having them. Nothing bad to say about them.
Oh, that was Monstar. I love him. I love him. He's such a gentleman, and it's funny because you see this persona that he plays, and he
looks like he just ripped your head off.
Hey, brother, but he's such a gentle soul, man, and I think that's what drew me to him so much, and I just have nothing but the utmost respect for him. He's such a good person.
Very kind-hearted person. He allowed me to come in as his ring announcer, and I've had so much fun working with him and being able to work with the boys and stuff like that. So I owe a lot to that man, and I could not disagree with anything that you said. But obviously there's the NXT questions, there's the WWE questions, but I want to get to some of the things that people don't normally ask.
Okay, this is going to be interesting. I'm excited about this part.
The first of which, when you look at you, you are a massive, massive, massive human being. Something that I found to be surprising was you're actually a vegetarian. Is that correct?
Well, so I was a pescatarian. I went vegetarian. My wife had me go vegetarian for almost a year. I got to tell you, man, that was one of the hardest things I ever did.
I was going to ask you about that because I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that if you're a vegetarian, you can only eat salad. I was going to ask you, what were some of your favorite things to eat as a vegetarian?
Well, when you're a vegetarian, like I was eating like a lot of beans and stuff like that. Truthfully, truth be told, like my wife made a lot of the stuff because I really didn't know what the hell I was eating. Like it was difficult for my mind to wrap around. I just remember one Thanksgiving, she had made a tofurkey, and it was
a what?
That's a real thing. And I remember it just being like one of the oddest things I'd ever eaten. And I made sure to take a photo of it and everything, but I'll never do it again, But I love my fish now. I do eat eggs. But that's about as deep as I really go. I don't eat red meat for the most part. Which is probably weird because a lot of people probably my size.
I mean, you just look like a steak, like a medium rare steak kind of guy.
No, not even close. No, I'll pass on it.
So we are going to disagree about something here on this show because I got to have mistakes, man. But then again, you look like you're in a lot better shape than I am. So obviously one of us making the right choices.
I don't know. I do mistake though. Don't get me wrong.
I got you, man. So, after being released from WWE, returning to the independent scene, the indies are as hot as they have ever been. This is probably the best time in wrestling for the independent scene.
Absolutely.
What was it that drew you into the indies, and what are you finding most enjoyable about them?
Well, the most enjoyable thing is that I get to pick when I want to do them, where I want to do them. That's been the nicest thing about it, right? I have a problem with saying no to bookers. I don't even think twice. I don't bat an eye. So that's really nice. And they're very accommodating. So they pay for the flights, of course, like WWE always did that. But I've got people pick me up. I get a hotel. I get to pick my flights, what time I want to go to sleep. So if I don't want to get a 5 a.m. flight, say I want to sleep in and I want to leave at 12, I can actually sleep in, which is kind of nice. As as well as anybody, when you come home, you've got to, have that super dad mode ready to go.
A little bit.
Yeah, just a little. You got 4, so good heavens, man.
I'm one away from a basketball team, Kon.
I love it.
Your wife actually made my youngest son. We were at, I can't remember which event it was. I think it was the one right before you guys took on the Headbangers and when the challenge was laid out for a TLC match that night. I think your guys' match got thrown out, but that night it was your wife, Sue Young. I was back there with Zach and Sin. And your wife just made my son laugh so hard.
Oh,
I was
really?
like, you can keep him because he doesn't do this for me.
Oh, yeah, she's awesome. I mean, we've been together for 15 years. So, I think we entertain each other, man. She's awesome.
So just while we're on the topic, we hear a lot of people in the business say that it can be strenuous on their marriage or, it's hard for for a significant other to understand what's going on. Do you find it easier being married to somebody who is in the business and kind of relieve some of that stress?
Yeah, 100%. I think so. It really does help because they understand the grueling schedules. They understand what the boys are like in the locker room. They're not. It just makes things a lot easier. I don't have to get into the whole. Why aren't you coming home at this time? Well, we've got to shoot promos a little bit longer. Like she gets that. But I've seen marriages fall apart, and it's sad. But too, I think if you really want a relationship to work out, you're going to go out of your way to make sure that things are right. Like I firmly believe nowadays, which is completely different than the way it used to be, is to bring your girl or your guy, whoever it is, to bring them to the show, to let them see what you do, to meet the people that you work with, because that's a big deal. Back when I had broke in, that was unheard of. I mean, me and Kristen, we had to kayfabe that we were dating for almost 2 years, if not longer, because it was one of those things that you weren't just supposed to do. It was bad.
You don't shit where you eat kind of thing?
Yeah. But in my case, I shit everywhere, right?
Oh, that's hilarious, man. The first time I actually saw you in person, it was you, your wife, and your son. You all arrived at the venue at the same time, and you can tell you guys have a very strong bond within your family, and it's beautiful to see, man. So congratulations to you and your wife for building such a very vibrant family.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of work, I mean, it has its times, but when you work through it, it makes you stronger, believe it or not.
So one question I wanted to ask you, we kind of hinted about you training and being down there at the Lethal Academy. And as we've already addressed numerous times, you are a parent. Do you feel like becoming a father has made you more patient when it comes to training and teaching, or has that not even been a factor for you?
I've never really thought about it, but it does make sense because when I'm with the students, like in my mind, in the way I see them, and they probably don't know this is the way I think, but I really do look at them like my children. And, like I've had several reach out to me just with non-wrestling related circumstances. I take a lot of pride in that. So to me, I feel like, we've got over 60, I have over 60 plus students or children in my mind that I've always told them that if they need me to reach out to me. And I'm pretty much there for anything, because I feel like, Kevin, I feel like I've gone through it all pretty much for the most part in my life.
I mean, it's fair to say. It's very fair to say. Now, you teach the advanced course, correct?
No, so I did. Now I'm at the beginner's course. So I get to train the greener than goose shit kids that come in there that think they want to be pro wrestlers, and you get to kind of mold them and ground them and kind of teach them from the beginning.
So the reason I ask that is because we have a lot of people that tune into the show and on my Twitch channel who are looking to make their first steps to finding a wrestling school and stuff like that. As a coach yourself, what's some advice you would give somebody looking to find a school or make their way into this world, and kind of talk to us about the differences between the beginner class and advanced course, if you don't mind?
Well, sure. Well, so the first thing I'll tell anybody that ever wants to get into this business, and especially now when I look around and I see the scene for what it is now, if you're going to get into the business, always look at the bigger picture on where you want to go in life when it comes to this business. So what I mean by that is look at the people that are training, because there's a lot of schools that are out there with guys who have never, ever, made it or done something in this business that deserve to be teaching these kids. Mm-hmm. I'm a firm believer in that. Even when I broke in the business, I was very just with who I worked with or who coached me or trained me. Like You know, when I first broke in, I was, I not only saw man Alex G, but I was trained by Rusty Brooks. Then I went to Rocky Johnson. And after Rocky Johnson, I went to Duke Dumpster Josie School. So I always made sure that wherever I went, I was around like-minded people that were at that level I want to be at. Because how can you train somebody to go to the big times or to be in that big limelight if that coach or that trainer has never done that, right? So I'm really big on that.
I can relate. So I was in the military for about 6.5 years, and I remember having this lieutenant come in who was supposed to train us to deploy. And at this time, I already had 2 deployments under my belt, and he had never deployed. And it just got to like this real big. Everything built up to one day, and I just remember saying, "How are you supposed to train me for combat when you've never been?" So right. I can definitely relate to that. Right. Different ways, but I completely understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy though. Like, right. So, but that's such a great question, you know, when you say something like that. So that's the biggest thing I always think of is like, you know, before you make a decision, and it's a life-changing decision. 1, you're going to lose money. Mm-hmm. 2, this is your life. You know what I mean? Like, this is where you're going to go eventually, unless you just want to be a fucking ham and egger and just kind of come in there and just be a weekend warrior. It's completely up to you. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, if you want to go to a place like AEW, WWE, ROH, Japan, anything that's like that, look at your coaches or look at the coaches that are training. And that's such a big, big thing for this business. There's just too many people that are out there right now that I think that are there just to take the kids' money, to be honest with you. And they don't know, they wouldn't even know how to tie their damn laces.
No, I cannot agree more. And I hear horror stories about it. Not going to name drop anybody. It's not what this show's about. But I hear the stories all the time. But switching gears a little bit, I asked you what advice you would give your student or somebody who's looking to make their way into the pro wrestling world. So now a question more targeted towards you, Connor. How long have you been in pro wrestling? How many years now?
Oh shit! You know, a lot of people are good at their numbers. I'm not really that good at it. I started training in 1999. I want to say 2000 was. Well, I've always considered 2000 as the time that I really started breaking in. So I would have to say 21, 22 years.
Okay, so right around that 21, 22 years mark. Your career is old enough to drink, Connor. But anyway, so if you were able to go back in time 21, 22 years and give yourself one piece of advice that you think would have really helped you along your career that you could have used back then, what would that advice be? Invest.
I think that's one of and I know this is totally off topic. It's probably threw you through a loop, but
I've never gotten this answer before, and I ask this question to everybody. I've never gotten this one before.
I have made money in this business to the point to where I've lost a lot of money by not knowing what to do with money. And so the biggest thing I am so big on this because wrestling only lasts for so long in your lifetime. Your body can only take so much abuse before it just wants to shut down, and everyone's going to be different. But setting your life plan up is the most important part of this entire thing. Otherwise, you're 80 years old. And again, we're not name dropping, but you know, you're 70, 80 years old and you're living on the buck, you know, for every damn independent show to pay a bill. And that's not what I ever want to see especially any of the students that I've had my hands on ever go through. So if I could take anything back and smarten myself up, I would say, hey, you know, instead of having a $5 drinking night, maybe have $100 drinking night, you know, save the $400, you know, things like that, because there was a lot of stupid, countless shit that I spent money on that I wish that I would have had somebody help me sooner rather than later, you know, but I learned and I thank God I learned when I did and I was smart with it.
Absolutely. You know, Harley Race said it best. Everybody's got a bump card, and when it's done, it's done.
It's done. Or you're going to be that guy who can barely walk to the ring and doesn't want to bump. And then people are like, what the hell is he doing?
Zach Monstar says, useless, you're Ric Flair. Apparently he thinks you're going to go forever.
No, he's a liar. No way. No way. Especially if I have a match with him, one match with him, and I'm done for good.
So we do take live viewer questions on here, guys. We do have a few moments for questions if you guys have any for Connor. I did see one of them pop up earlier. That said, I was trying to find it earlier. I'm gonna go and ask this next question, and then while he answers, I'll go and filter through and find some of the other questions. But you have wrestled over a multitude of different places. What were some of your more favorite places that you were able to go to?
Well, there's still some places I still haven't gone that I'd love to. But at one point in my life, it was MSG. I always wanted to go wrestle in Madison Square Garden, and I ended up doing that, a handful of times, which was amazing. WrestleMania, that was always the goal. I love Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico was a lot of fun back when IWA was really hot. I'm not really sure how it is right now. But where I would like to go that I haven't gone yet, and actually perform and wrestle, other than the Tokyo Dome, is Hammerstein Ballroom. I would love to wrestle at Hammerstein just to say I did it, which is kind of odd, but it's a goal. It's something I always said I would hang my boots up in the Tokyo Dome.
You mentioned the Hammerstein Ballroom, and I mean, that's just as good a place as any. But throughout all your travels, we hear it all the time as fans, but we're not privileged to the knowledge that you have. Traveling and going to these different countries and different places and stuff like that, do you feel it's the wrestling that changes, or is it the culture that has a different impact on the wrestling?
Oh, it's definitely the culture. And I think that's what makes it so great. Your audiences aren't the same when you go to these other countries because, one, they might not get it as much as over here in the States we get it. You've got different varieties of fans. Like I love the UK, and the reason why I like the UK is because they just want to have fun. That's kind of like where your hokey stuff comes in and you get to laugh a little bit. Of course you work hard. But it's just, I don't know. There's just something that's so special about working overseas. I wrestled in Seoul, Korea, and that was amazing. I got to wrestle Viscera for 2 weeks straight. And that was amazing. I was terrified. But it's just the coolest thing in the world, seeing these other countries and these other cultures and the way that people are, the way that people think. I'm not going to really touch, the whole Saudi thing, but, one of my favorite places also to wrestle was Jeddah. I love Jeddah. It was beautiful. And the fans, they were so cool, so yeah, it's wild. I always tell people, man, don't make Florida your ceiling. Break through and go everywhere. You've got to.
No, I definitely agree. And, a lot of people have said the same thing. Being Sim Bodie, Ryzen, some guys that have had said very much similar same thing. Don't set your ceiling to what you think is achievable. Correct. Set it something that you strive for. Agreed.
I 100% agree with that.
So I have this game that I like to play. And, guys, I did see your questions coming in. We are going to ask some of them, especially one that I saw coming that's actually in my notes to ask. But just before we get to those, Connor, we play this game here on the War Room, and it's the only reoccurring segment we have. I call it the Insta Game. Basically what I do is I take a look at your Instagram page. I grab a few photos that I think are interesting or might need a little more of a backstory, and I get your take on these photos. Are you down for that?
Of course. I mean, I've pretty much put everything up that I don't think I'd be too ashamed of.
So we hinted at, you are a jacked human being. I imagine you spend a lot of time in the gym. Can you explain this? It was actually a video. Do you remember what this video is?
I remember. Can you remind me what was said? Was it just a video in itself?
It was just a video of him dancing, and I was wondering, is this how you get so jacked in the gym?
So I think what I loved about that video was I'm pretty sure that it was just another big dude who was having a great time.
Oh, he looked like he was having time of his life.
Yeah, and I think that that's like saying, and I still feel this way, that anytime I go to a gym, like it's just like my getaway. Like I just love it. I love being around the energy, the people. And I think I probably felt like him that day, to be honest with you. I was probably just like ecstatic, except without the outfit, of course, you know.
A little bit. Guys, if you want to check out that video, I did post Big Kon's links down here at the bottom of the screen. His Twitter and his Instagram are the same. Definitely go check out that video. It is absolutely hilarious. But moving on to the next photo, the world of pro wrestling has introduced us to some larger-than-life characters, ones that have permanent impacts on the business. And I found this photo to be really touching. Can you explain, or can you talk to us about what it was like being able to meet Animal and have a relationship with him?
Yeah, so this was about a month before his passing, and a gentleman by the name of Scott Wilder ended up making this whole thing happen. We had gotten booked to do a show and a signing. I think the show fell through, but the signing went through. But Animal just happened to be there with Paul. And that night was really something special to me, because that was my final, that was, well, Vic's too, even though Vic was having the time of his life as well. That was our closure because of what was done in the past, which, you know, wrestling's going to be wrestling no matter what. But, you know, for me personally, like I felt like I needed to do some apologizing to some people and kind of have and give them an explanation. Like I've talked to Demolition, I talked to the Powers of Pain, you know, and this was the one person I hadn't talked to yet. And so we got to sit there. I swear to you, we must have been there for about an hour just chit-chatting. And he basically, in so many ways, said that he forgave us and that he understood that it wasn't us. And he actually said he pitched to come in and manage us. We had no idea until he said that. He had called his brother up, apparently, John Laurinaitis, and told him that I pitched to come in and manage you guys because you guys needed the help after all that. And me and Vic looked at each other. We were like, whoa, like, how cool would that have been? Man, that right there probably would have been a game changer. But
I mean, it's not called the Road Warrior Pop for nothing.
I mean, yeah, no, right? No kidding. And so when I look at that now, I'm just really grateful, and I thank God that I was able to have that moment with him and to talk with him and to laugh with him. And it's just something I'll never forget. I'm going to take that to the grave. And it's funny that you even show that picture, because right now, currently in the school, if you look at the case above my case where I have all the belts that I'm proud of, you'll see I have the Road Warriors right above it with all their signatures on it. And I've got one special one. It's Animals Hall of Fame that he actually gave me and signed for me to have. And so that's at the school, that's probably one of my most prized possessions in wrestling right now, to be honest with you.
I can imagine. Connor, I know we're getting close to that time. I have one more photo and one question, if that's all right with you.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So the last photo I want to show you before we get to our final question of the night, I thought this photo was very, very touching, and I would love to know the story behind it. Can you talk to us about this photo?
Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah, that was awesome. So that was that's Slater's daughter.
Okay.
And so she wanted us to come in and have lunch with her in front of the school during her lunch period. So me, Rhino, and Heath, we always traveled together.
Mm-hmm.
And so Heath was like, hey, do you guys mind wanting to do this? And
I love the accent.
Oh, I love Heath. He's my ride or die. And I was like, and you know, her nickname I gave her, she's the Disney princess. And so I was like, it's thumbs up for me. Like it's hands down, you got to do it. You know, like it's just exciting. And so, you know, that was a little thing that we did for her in front of the school. And, you know, it was, gosh, she's so sweet too. And anytime you can give back to kids, or just be in a moment with them and make them smile, like, you can't replace that. And you know that.
She's going to carry that story with her forever.
Yeah. You know that as a father, like anytime you can make a kid light up, they'll never forget it. And it's just like, I don't know, man, like there was so much that went into that little weekend. Actually, it was the first time I've ever had a hug from a kid, but this was like, my son was, practically, infant at this time. And I just remember melting. And so anyways, not to get all blah, 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 like all, sweet. You
just got a big heart, Connor. You just got a big old heart.
Yeah, that was strictly his daughter, and it was a blessing to be a part of that.
It's such a touching story, and I saw the photo. I didn't know that was Heath's daughter, and I just saw the photo, and I was like, I have to ask about this photo. It was a no-brainer for me. So I'm glad that you kind of told that story. It's a great story. I have one final question for you, and then I'm gonna let you go because I know you got to go do the dad life, much like I do. Guys, just before I get to this final question, we are going to start our belt giveaways tonight. 4 lucky people are going to win absolutely free championship belts. That is going to continue at the conclusion of this interview only on my Twitch channel when we do our watch along for Monday Night Raw. So at the conclusion of this interview, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hop over to Twitch. We're going to fire right back up on the Twitch channel, and that's where the belt giveaways are going to take place. You must be in the viewing audience to win. Absolutely have to be. With that being said, because I know a lot of people are wondering, Connor, I had a question written down for you that I saw on a previous podcast you were on, and I was debating whether I wanted to ask it or not, but there were about 3 comments in the comment section asking for it. Can you tell us your funniest Vince McMahon moment?
Yeah. Actually, so the funniest Vince McMahon moment was when back in the day I was doing the Rat character, and how this all came about was John Laurinaitis set me up an interview to sit down with Vince, and John came in with me, and Vince wanted to get to know who I was, and he was talking to me, and he goes, he's like, "Hey kid, what kind of music do you like?" And I said, "Well, I like heavy metal, sir." And he goes, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is not good." I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking at John, and John's sitting there, and he's going like this, and I just feel like it's like, oh, I just dropped the ball on that. He goes, "What's your favorite kind of movie?" And I'm like, "I like pretty much all movies, Vince." And he goes, like, man, you talking about shit in the bed. I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh. I was like, this is not going good. And then John Laurinaitis looks over to Vince. He goes, "Hey, Vince, Finley says he looks like a rat." And Vince goes like this.
Leave it to Finley.
I mean, it was the craziest face I'd ever seen. And I looked at John, I go, "Oh shit, no, John, oh." Oh. And Vince looks at me, and Vince goes, "Can you talk like this?" And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I was trying, I couldn't do it. I could not do it. And so Vince just looked at me and said, "Well, keep on trying." And so anyways, I just felt defeated. I felt like I just screwed everything up, everything I worked for. This is it. I'm done. So I had to report to SmackDown the following night. So all night I was stuffing tissues up my nose, practicing this, and I finally got it. Catering, Johnny's sitting there. He's sitting next to me. He goes, "Hey, kid, how you doing?" I go, "I'm doing pretty good, Johnny. See?" And he looked at me, and he goes, and he had his tray, and he goes, "All right, come on, follow me." And he grabbed me and just took me like that. I'm like, I go, "John, where are we going?" "Where are we going, John?" He goes, "We're going to Vince's office." And I'm like, "Oh, no, but John." I was like, "No, please, no." And he goes, "Stand here, wait till Vince opens the door." And then all of a sudden he goes, and then he walks away, and I go, "John, where are you going?" And then you hear, "Come in." And so I go, "Oh, shit."
Everything about this story is just funny.
Hey, I'm looking around, right, and the hallway is empty. I'm standing there. I'm just scared as all hell. And I'm like, and I open the door up, and as I open the door, Vince's back is to me, and probably about 20 feet away, he's making his coffee, and he's stirring his coffee. I can see the motion in his arm, and he goes, "What do you want?" Like, first off, the guy don't even know who the fuck it is. That's number one, right? Number two, I'm like, am I getting yelled at for no reason? Like, what's going on here? So I'm thinking to myself, Mr. McMahon, they're making a lot of fun of me, see? And then all of a sudden you see him go, and he stops stirring. Everything just like pauses, but his head comes up and he goes, oh, yeah? What are they saying? And I'm like, they're making fun of me. I don't like it, Vince. They say I talk funny. And he looks around at me and he comes walking up. And he gets right in my face and he starts stirring the cup again, the coffee, and he goes, what are they saying? And I'm sitting there and I say I sound stupid. And he goes, yeah? Well, you know what I say? And I go, what are you saying? And he goes, I say, fuck them. And I go, fuck them. It just, and then when it was all said and done, I remember walking out that door and I thought to myself, what the hell just happened? It was the most bizarre thing, and it's something I'll never forget. Matter of fact, if I ever write a book about it, I'm going to have to talk about it. But that was probably not only the funniest, but most bizarre moment I've ever had, probably in wrestling, period. But with Vince especially.
That is absolutely amazing. I heard this. I laughed, rewinded, and rewatched that segment of that interview so many times. Oh. It was priceless. And when I seen people asking about it, I was like, okay, we got to talk about it. But Connor,
man,
I know you have a lot of stuff to get to tonight, and I want to be very respectful of your time. I've had such a blast tonight, and I hope that later on in the future we can have a part 2 to this. I know myself and the viewers would really enjoy it. We have your social media accounts up. Yep. So everybody feel free to go follow Connor once again. As soon as this interview is over, we will continue on my Twitch channel and only my Twitch channel. So if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you jump over. But Connor, if there's anything else that you want to say, plug, promote, anything before we get out of here, please feel free to, man.
Yeah, going back really quick, briefly to what we were talking about with the school, of course, I'm going to plug our school, Jay Lethal, myself, and David Mercury. If you're ever interested in wanting to be trained by the pros and really learn this business, not only the wrestling aspect, but the business side of it as well, and the professionalism, feel free to hit us up at the wrestlinglab1@gmail.com. If you're interested or if you're inquiring, we'll be sure to get back with you within 24 hours. As far as shows go, September 2nd, I've got Championship Wrestling from Atlanta happening, obviously, in Atlanta. September 10th, I'll be in West Virginia. September 12th, I'll be out in Greenville, South Carolina. September 18th, of course, it's Wham Bam Slam with ARW. It'll be us versus Kings of Evil. And then I just got booked for Hazard Fest, October 8th and 9th out in Greenville, South Carolina. So that's just some of the things I wrote down. But I just really want to take this time right now just to thank you specifically for allowing me to be on your platform and talk with your viewers. And hopefully they liked what I had to say. And if not, you can kiss my ass.
I'm sure you did. Guys, if you're watching this interview, please right now take a screenshot of it, post it on Twitter, post it on Instagram. Let us know you were watching. Let us know what your favorite part of it was. And let us know if you want Connor to come back for a part 2, because I definitely do. Once again, thank you so much for being here. And yeah, man, I know you don't need to hear this from me, but please keep doing what you're doing. You inspire so many people, and you are such a genuine and kind-hearted person. It's very rare to meet people like you who have been to the heights that you've been and still have the level head that you do. So please don't stop being who you are, man.
Yes, sir. Will do.
With that being said, guys, we'll catch you next time. Connor, if you do just have one more second, I'd love to ask you one more question when we end, but if you don't, I understand.
Absolutely.
Guys, we'll be live this Thursday with August Artois in the War Room. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.